Welcome to the Mischief Maker broadcast, where chaos, creativity, and common sense collide. Your host, Joel Freeman, was kicked out of high school in Alberta, Canada. He left home at 17 and hitchhiked around North America as a long-haired hippie and dope-smoking fool. He made a 180-degree change, becoming one of the first chaplains in the history of the NBA. As a professional speaker, Joel has traveled to well over 55 countries. His many books have been published in 28 foreign translations. Pieces from his Black History collection have been seen by millions at the United Nations and many other venues. And now, the Chief Mischief Maker himself, Dr. Joel A. Freeman.
Hey guys, Baby Joel here. I once heard my grandfather say something that perhaps you can explain to me. Here it is. There's no lesson learned by the second kick of a mule. Hey, Baby Joel, how you doing? That was about 70 some odd years ago, 69 years ago, maybe 70, where Baby Joel is weighing in on his thoughts. And here we are some 70 years later, and I still feel 18 mentally, 20 mentally. And anyway, here we go. We got a great show tonight. I have a friend of mine, his name is Frank Kelly III. And he is a remarkable human being. We're going to talk about the whole idea of family-owned business, and then we're going to talk about succession. Now, I want you to lean in here. If you are in business and you're hoping to take your ice cream parlor into 17 different locations and bring your kids in and have that become a franchise and then maybe goes global or all across the country, wherever you live, that's a dream. But many times, most of the time, the succession to the next generation is lacking. And the statistics are against next generation taking over, let alone the third generation. So we're gonna dig deep, first of all, into the heart and mind of Frank Kelly the third, and then we're going to talk also about lacrosse. And there's a book that he's written called Love and Go, 12 Powerful Truths for a Blessed Life. And he's written another book called Influence and the Creator's Game. Now, this is a fascinating study of lacrosse. And I don't know if you knew, but Jim Brown, the NFL great, he played lacrosse. Wayne Gretzky played lacrosse. We know that Steve Nash, the NBA player, he and his group, they played lacrosse. And Steve Carell from The Office, from the U.S. I know there's a British The Office, but the U.S. Office, star of that show. And he and his group, they put together what they called the Bermuda Triangle, making the opposing offense disappear. So he kind of wove humor into the way he did lacrosse. Method Man from the Wu-Tang Clan, he loves lacrosse. Wayne Belichick, the famous coach for the New England Patriots, and I'm not sure what he's doing now. I think he's coaching in college. The college team. Wayne Gretzky, probably one of the greatest all-around hockey players. Bobby Hull is in that list, and Bobby Orr, and all these different other folks are in that list. But he was an avid rain, snow, ice playing lacrosse. So we're going to talk about that, but we're going to put a pin in all that. And there's a song I want to share with you that is it's kind of involved with what we're going to discuss today. It's called Business Partner Blues. And we might even discuss some of the business partner blues that Frank Kelly has experienced in his life with Kelly and Associates. But we're going to go to that song right now. So Mel, let's hear that song.
started out dreaming, hands in the air, worked hard to build something, a vision to share. Attacked hell with squirt guns, thought we were tough, but business and friendship, wow, it can get rough. Then came the dollars, along with the doubt, late night worries and figures to count. One was saving, the other was spending. Both knew that their trust in the other was bending. The lawyers on standby, papers to sign. Friendship eroded, $1 at a time. Was it the ego, or was it the greed? Maybe just two different versions of me. But there's a way to stand the test, to keep a friendship and not make a mess. Write it all down, be clear and wise. Shake on the deal, but don't close your eyes. Respect the roles, don't cross the lane. Split the profit, split the pain. If trust gets thin, step back, reset. Cause friendship's a fortune you don't wanna bet. The best way to ruin a bond that's true is to mix in money and gaslight the view. If you wanna stay friends and make money together, be humble and smart and respect God forever. Respect the roles, don't cross the lane. Split the profit, split the pain. If trust gets thin, step back, reset. Cause friendship's a fortune you don't wanna bet. The best way to ruin a bond that's true is to mix in money and gaslight the view. If you wanna stay friends and make money together, be humble and smart and respect God forever.
Well, we might get into some of the topics of the lyrics of that song. I want to encourage you to go to the QR code above my head and in the corner, and you can learn more about becoming a mischief maker and what that means. To become, I hope to deputize you to become a mischief maker in your corner of the world. But also today, for those who are watching live, we have a special opportunity for you to join in and to ask questions. Now, Mel, he's going to make sure that every question is germane to our topic, but once it comes up on the screen, we'll do our best to cover it and to respond and have Frank respond for you. Frank, come on in, and I want to introduce you.
Thank you,
Frank's
Joel.
down in Florida right now, and Frank he serves as the CEO of Kelly and Associates Insurance Group, Kelly and Associates Financial Services, Kelly Benefits Payroll, Kelly Benefits Exchange, and Kelly Integral Solutions, collectively known as Kelly Benefits.
Right.
And under his leadership, It's become one of the nation's largest and fastest growing providers of group insurance, benefits, payroll solutions for employers of every size. So if you're looking for somebody, for an organization to take over those areas, we're going to make sure that you can get a hold of Frank and his company, and they'll do a heck of a job for you. Since Frank was named the president in 1994, Kelly Benefits has grown from a corporate client base of 1,000 to more than 10,000. And annualized premiums and payroll administered under management have risen from 20 million to over 4 billion. That's with a B. And he's got so much more outside the office, the boards he's involved with, the sports groups and everything else, his family. And Frank, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joel. I'm honored to be here.
You know, as we've known each other a little bit for a number of decades, probably a few decades anyway.
Right.
And one of the things I'd like for you for us to take a look at is when you look back on your childhood, what experiences happened that most shaped you to one day lead a multi-generational family business?
Thanks, Joel. That's a loaded question and a great question. My mom and dad grew up in the Philadelphia area. I was born up there. They moved to Baltimore in the late 60s, me and my brother John. And soon after they got to Baltimore, had two more sons. So I'm the oldest of four boys. My parents also raised a foster child. We have a foster sister who lived with us from age 6 to 18. Both of her parents were alive but incapacitated. And so look, at every family dynamic brings different things to light. Me and my brothers are close in age. So we had 2-on-2 everything. Even at church, shaking hands, the sign of peace was a competition. So we learned to compete as a young age. Some vivid memories I have, would have to be around sports, actually. My dad coached me in baseball as a young kid. He had played at a high level. His father had played semi-pro. And ironically, baseball and lacrosse were in the same season, but I was a baseball player through 8th grade. And just some of the things I learned on the baseball and football field, I feel probably shaped me the most in being a leader. I also flash back to my elementary school, Pot Spring, and my 6th grade teacher. Different teachers along the way. I can think of one in elementary and one in high school who both made me feel like I was unique and had a gift and had a leadership gift. I remember one Christian brother at Calvert Hall, the big Catholic high school I attended, said to me one day, and I was really down and out, but hey, Kelly, you're no ordinary ham and egger. And I think, when we have people who believe in us, it allows us to rise and fulfill some of the gifting God's given us.
Now, as you look back, with your dad, he was a Maryland state senator, Francis X. Kelly,
Yep.
and maybe your grandfather. What do you think you missed and didn't really pick up until you became CEO?
Well, we all have family stories. I'm actually a third. And, my dad's junior. His father planted the seed with him to come into business with him. He was 46, and my dad was a junior in college. And, alcoholism has been a part of our family history. My great-grandfather died on the streets of New York after losing his wife. And 3 kids had to go and live with family members, including my grandfather, who I never met. But he then had a problem with alcohol and finally got sober through AA at age 46 and, had a vision to start a little business and asked my dad to join him. He was a packaging broker. And, my dad swore he would, and then he died at 48, so that vision never happened. And then my dad swore he would not have a problem with alcohol. And at age 30 in 1971, at age 31, he came to realize he too had a problem with alcohol, got sober through AA, and later came to faith. But those things shape you. So technically, I was 7 years old the last time my dad had a drink. I don't remember anything violent or evil, but I'm an adult child of an alcoholic, and all these things shape us, And, my parents started the business in May of 1976 in the bedroom of the home we grew up with in a little split level house. And me and my brothers and foster sister, we didn't really know what they were doing in the bedroom. And, 6 months later, moved down to the basement. But they laid a foundation for a business that, I work in today with my 3 brothers.
Was leadership assumed or earned in your family household?
That's a really good question. It's interesting. My dad ended up 2 years after starting the business with hardly any money in his pocket, ran for state senate over a property tax issue, and won. And my dad, being the kind of person he is, he became best friends with the guy he ran against, Dutch Rupersberger. And my dad won, and
I remember him.
my dad agreed to advocate for issues that were important to Dutch, mainly in Maryland, the University of Maryland shock trauma system.
Hmm.
And Dutch went on to be a county executive and a 20 plus year congressman, and they were best friends. And then politically, they were on kind of polar opposites. But I saw leadership in my dad. But to be honest, my mom, in many ways, is a stronger leader than my dad, and she helped run our business the first 10 years. So she had 5 kids, was running the business. 2 years in, my dad goes down to Annapolis. He's there January 15th, April 15th. She's running a business and has 5 kids. She modeled leadership to me. And I feel like, I got leadership gifting from both of them. But, I think God allows us to have experiences growing up, and you ask great questions that kind of shape and mold our leadership style. And, I look at my athletic activities in middle school, youth, and then high school and even college. And then the influence of my parents have all shaped my leadership.
Now, when I don't know if you've been to Al-Anon or some of these other organizations like that, and they say that different kids play different roles. The
Right.
comedian,
Yep.
different the responsible one. Have you ever unpacked that in terms of the role that you played in the family system?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I now work with 3 brothers. So
Hmm.
I joined the family business in '86. I didn't want to. I told my dad I'd do 1 year. He asked me, and I felt God led me to do that 1 year. Of course, here I am nearly 40 years later. But a year after me, my brother John came, then my brother David, 2 years later, and then my brother Brian. And we are the perfect picture of the birth order book. You've maybe heard of that book, and
Yes.
it talks about what happens. And like this is part. None of us choose what family we're going to be born into. None of us choose our birth order. But I kind of fall into that typical firstborn achiever,
Hmm.
focused worker, leader. My brother John is really smart, more creative, visionary. But also a contrarian. If we're going right, he's going left. And then my brother David's the comedian, and he is hysterical. You should have him on the show, Joel. David's got the gift of humor, and he's really smart. And then my brother Brian is the baby. And
Hmm.
and we still, even in the office, sometimes go back into our roles. And here we are, 50 and a 60-year-old man. That can easily fall back into a birth order pattern. But we've worked hard with advisors to try to mature and grow and soften some of the edges that aren't as nice as they could be.
Now, dinner tables, growing up, or there's kind of like some dinner tables. It's everyone pass me the butter, and everyone talk politics, sports, the weather, religion, whatever it might be. And other dinner tables, it's like shut up and eat, and we'll talk later. What was your dinner table like in terms of, let's say, discussing things around money, risk, relationships, things like that might have helped to inform some things in your
Right.
mind and heart?
Yeah. Well, growing up, my parents, when they started the business in 1976, I was 12 years old. So I can think back to being around the table. It was 4 boys. We were all athletes. We were hyper competitive. Even when it came to dinner time, my mom would put the food out, and there would be a fight to get the most amount of food first, and some bizarre things that would even happen in reference to claiming food, like that's mine. One brother would spit on the steak. That steak's mine. You're like, you're an idiot. I'm going to kill you. We also kind of grew up in kind of a blue collar home. I flash
Uh-huh.
back, like in the summers, we didn't have our shirts on around the table. We were not a very prim and proper crew, but there was always obviously honor and respect for my mom and dad. Um,
Hmm.
and we weren't talking about super deep issues around the table. A lot of it, quite honestly, was around sport and school and competing.
So, and also, you're named after your dad, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, many times when people come up with biblical names or names of Aunt Dorothy or Uncle Ralph, there are certain expectations that are loaded with that name designation. Did you feel any of that being named Francis X? Kelly the third.
Well, thanks, Joel. Another not great question, but my dad, his father, Francis X. Kelly, was born in Brooklyn,
Uh-huh.
and his father had a problem with alcohol. He grew up in a YMCA. My grandfather, by the way,
Wow.
never graduated high school. There's a long story, but then my dad, was a junior. I think he was proud of his name. I never felt pressure with the name at all. Look at my dad. Was just a very down to earth person. So it wasn't like a big deal that he was in the state senate for 12 years from 78 to 91, or 11 years or 13 years. But, um, you know, I now have a son, Francis X. Four, Francis Xavier
Wow.
Kelly Fourth, and he has a son, Francis X. Kelly the Fifth,
The
Quinn.
fifth.
And this is kind
Wow.
of cool. We had a family wedding this past year. My nephew David Kelly, my brother David's oldest son, in Ireland, and we had 46 Kellys go. So between me and my brothers, Gail and I have four kids. My brother John and T have six. My brother
Wow.
David and his wife Melissa have six, including two adopted from Ethiopia. And my brother Brian has five sons. So we had 46 Kellys at a wedding. And the day after the wedding, we went on a bus ride. We were moving hotels too, from Dublin down to a county called Kilkenny to a little village called Johnstown, where my father's his great grandfather and great grandmother both came from that village. And I got a picture of Joel with me, my dad, my son Frankie, and Quinn. So four generations of FX Kellys in the town where the Kelly family came from. So, there's pride
That's
in it. We don't
crazy.
want to be arrogant in that at all,
Hmm.
because there's a lot of other siblings, but it's something that we do celebrate.
What was the most difficult lesson that you learned prior to going into a position of leadership?
Well, the most difficult lesson for me, quite honestly, was getting right, deciding to get right with my relationship with God. And
Hmm.
I mentioned sport and competition. I got to this big Catholic high school. I was a public school kid, got recruited to play football at a Catholic high school, Calvert Hall, and another big Catholic high school in Baltimore. I chose Calvert Hall, and I'm grateful I did, and played on championship teams. And and that's when the lacrosse coach came to me and a couple football players and convinced us to play lacrosse instead of baseball. And God did
Oh.
that. Yeah, and yeah. So I mean, those things shaped me. And then the way I put it is, football and lacrosse in high school went from being games, little G games, to little G gods. They were
Hmm.
became idols to me. So much of my identity was tied up in my performance as an athlete and in other areas. And I ended up at Cornell University, played 2 years of football, 4 years of lacrosse, and again, a sport became even more of a god. And for the first time, I had injuries. I had some coaches who didn't think I was as good as I was. I was trying to do a lot of dumb things socially, and it all caught up with me. And then God, as He does, puts people in your life, and put some people in my life to help me make the best decision I ever made, which was to surrender my life to the Lord Jesus Christ and develop a personal relationship with God. I grew up with religion. I didn't understand relationship. I
Hmm.
had the pieces to the puzzle spiritually. I just didn't know how they fit together. And I think that was one of the most important decisions I made. And it came out of a season of brokenness and pain, but I'm thankful for it.
And who were those mentors? Not maybe not specifically about the spiritual realm, but also in other realms in your life, or
Well,
all together.
I mean, my mom and dad, for sure.
Hmm.
My parents had a spiritual awakening 2 years before they started the business. So obviously, Irish Catholic, Italian Catholic, and kind of through the charismatic renewal in the Catholic Church, kind of had an awakening. And then I ended up at Calvert Hall, played for Augie Maselli, huge influence on my life, legendary coach. Brother Gregory Cavalier, this Christian brother teacher, French. I was in honors French. I was thinking of transferring back to the public school where all my friends went. And he's the one who said, "Hey, Kelly, you're no ordinary ham and egger."
Really? Huh.
That one statement kept me at Calvert Hall. I was on the verge of leaving, and if I had left, I had three brothers follow me. Between us, we've had 15 sons, 14 have attended Calvert Hall. There's fields named Kelly Field. All of that because, now Coach Maselli got me a little scholarship because my parents needed it. They just started the business. Because Brother Gregory Cavalier, a kind word, the power of a kind word. "Hey, Kelly, you're no ordinary ham and egger." And I think of his influence. And then, I get to Cornell. I had a football teammate, Jeff Caliguire, and an All-American wrestler, come into my life and begin talking to me about faith and having a relationship with God. And not just going to church or going through the motions, but a real relationship. And they really had a huge influence on my life. So those are just a couple of the big influencers in my life.
Now, as you think about when he said that, do you remember where you were?
Oh, exactly. 100%.
And how did it hit you at the moment, and then later on as you reflected on it?
Well, I was a freshman in honors French. It was the first semester, probably 2 or 3 months ago. I was struggling academically. In my mind, I was in advanced classes. I wasn't doing as well in the football field as I thought, but I ended up having a big game. And I was struggling in class. I was very scared. I had a lot of fear. I wasn't doing well. And I think Brother Gregory sensed it. I remember this too. Talk about the word grace or being generous or gracious. We were taking a 20 question true false test in advanced French, and he came by and said, "Hey, Cal, if I were you, I'd look at number 7, number 12, and number 16." He basically gave me 3, which took me from 77 to 85, which gave me enough. And then I was in that class when, he, I had a pretty good game and was in the bulletin, and he just said, "Hey, the little freshman here, this guy's no ordinary ham. Callie, you're no ordinary ham and egger." I remember it clearly. It's carried with me. It's amazing the power of a word, a kind word, or a negative word can go the other way,
Sure.
right? And encouragement can go a long way.
I'd like to turn a gentle corner here. Most second generation family members in a business sell it. And I'm sure you're probably every day you get offers or every week or every month for Kelly benefits. Why didn't you sell it?
Wow, that's a great question. All right, so my mom and dad started in a bedroom, then the basement of our home in the mid 70s. I graduated Cornell University. I was in Japan exploring missions vocationally, by the way, and felt a calling, a clear call. And I can get into it if you want, but I felt my dad, before I left, said, "Frankie, before you go off and save the world, I'd love it if you spent 1 year in the business." And it was my mom and dad. He had a partner, Gary and Betty Chick. They were 50-50 partners. And then maybe 2 or 3 of my friends' moms from the neighborhood working 9 to 3, and then like a couple other people. I had no desire to come in. But when I was in Japan, I felt a very clear sense that I was supposed to do that. And I'm like, I guess I can waste 1 year of my life in the business. So I came in and I was 6 months in, and I was kind of going through the motions. And there's a scripture in the Bible. It says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as if for the Lord, not man." And I just felt challenged by that. I was growing in my faith, like, hey, the last 6 months of this year, I got to go all in as if for God. I'm not working for my mom and dad or for the business or the bottom line. I began to apply myself. And at the end of that 6 months, there was a lot of other things going on. And I was doing well and felt, I got married too. And I'm like, "Yeah, do you think I should stay?" Yes. Every year in August, I evaluate, "Lord God, should I stay in this business?" Then my brother John came and David, and we laughed because we had no planning, no formal training. My parents had no vision, but you know what they did have? They had faith. And they had surrendered the business to God. They tell a story early on. They couldn't even get a line of credit at the bank. They had a friend get them a $10,000 line of credit on a credit card. And then my dad's partner, Gary, was able to get a $10,000 advance commission. And then his mother-in-law lent another 10, and that's how they capitalized the business. But they got on their knees at the end of the bed. My mom and dad said, "God, we feel you're leading us into this business. We need your help. We dedicate the business to you. We don't need to be the biggest or anything. Just please help us provide for our family, serve our clients well, and be a blessing to the community." And I feel like God's honored that prayer.
Wow. We're going to take a break. We're at the top of the hour, and we're going to play just a short little video about the Rosetta Universe, folks, and check out the QR code. And remember, if you have questions, just feel free to write those and send them into Mel, and we'll put them up on the screen. And when we come back, I want to ask Frank a question about what families miss the most when it comes to succession planning, and some of the wisdom that he might be able to share, especially if you are in a family-owned business or in a regular business, but you're in this spot, about succession planning. So, Mel, let's go to let's hear about the Rosetta Universe. You're going to love this.
What if we dared to believe in the inherent brilliance deep in the minds of our young people? What if our commitment to their excellence knew no bounds? What if one solitary experience could be the catalyst for untold innovations from millions of inspired minds? What if that awe-inspiring experience is right here, right now? Don't allow one child to miss the Rosetta Stone Traveling Exhibit experience, curated by the Freeman Institute Foundation. Become part of a world-changing legacy project empowering generations to become solutionists and equipped to address the greatest challenges. Your action today shapes a future of innovation and problem-solving excellence for tomorrow's leaders. Unlock the future of leadership today with the Rosetta Stone Traveling Exhibit. Join us. Get involved. Dr. Joel Freeman, the visionary founder, eagerly anticipates your questions, ideas, and valuable advice as we embark on this transformative journey. Help unearth a world that transcends gadgets and distraction to reveal a world of significance and fulfillment for future generations of leaders. Text Rosetta to 410-729-7800 to request a personal call from Dr. Joel Freeman.
On the link tree above, you can take a look at, I think it's number 1 on the link tree, the Rosetta Universe. One of the ways that you can help is I've designed this belt. It's the Jack Johnson belt. Jack Johnson was the first black heavyweight champion in the world. And if you're interested, we'll ship these anywhere in the world. We're only making 700 of these throughout the world. And then we're destroying the design and never to be reproduced again. And already a number of people have done this. So you make a donation to the foundation. This is our way of saying thank you, a tangible way of saying thank you. And hopefully it'll launch tens of thousands of educational conversations about Jack Johnson and just a remarkable human being. So anyway, Frank, thank you so much for waiting during this commercial space for an ad about Rosetta Universe. What do families misunderstand when it comes to succession planning?
Yeah, well, family businesses are unique. They're really special, they're great, and they're really challenging and hard. So my parents started in 76. I've been in 40 years. My brothers, I've worked with 3 brothers for over 35 years. And now we have 5 next generation 3s coming in. I think you need to be intentional. I think you need to be thoughtful, prayerful, intentional. I believe in using wise advisors. So for us, about 15 years ago, we knew the Gen 3s were coming. We, went out and found the best family business consultant advisors we could through an organization called Blue Trust. They do faith-based financial fee for service advising, but they also have a family business consulting arm. Russ Crossman, the president, a guy named Scott Calhoun, came out and met with me, my parents, my brothers, our legal team, our finance team, and we developed a strategy based on best practices, right? Like, tell me the 10 best privately owned faith-based businesses in the country and what they've done to be so successful, not just in business, but in faith and family. And we've tried to learn from others. That's been really key for us.
When you're in a jar, you can't read the label. And
Right.
you bring in people to help read that label for you and for all of
Yeah.
us. It's
It's a great quote.
quite a
Yep.
remarkable opportunity. Now, what are the most common mistakes that founders make that sabotage the success of succession?
I think there's 2 things. I think some founders are hyper controlling. They just can't let go. And therefore, they do not empower the next generation. You've got to strategically empower the next generation if they have the gifting to lead. My dad, I became president of the company. I was 30 years old in 1994. By then, we had about 30 some employees, and now we have around 500. But you got so either too controlling or too hands like completely hands off. I think there's a balance of allowing the next gen to lead and serve and use their gifts, and at the same time being appropriately involved. My mom questioned my dad. Frankie's so young. Janet, it's okay. The boys, it's time. And then I'll be here so I can help if things don't go right. So I think every family's different. You got to discern if the children have a passion for the business, if they have the gifting to do certain parts, because we all have different gifts. Maybe not everybody's made to be the leader of the business, but they can help serve and grow a part of the business. And each family's different that way.
How do you separate your family role from your executive role in making tough decisions?
Great question. I'm very close with my brothers. Between us, we have 21 kids, 15 boys, 6 girls. Most of the boys have played high school and college lacrosse, and a lot of them played on the same teams. One of my brothers, my youngest brother, he works in a business. He's also a high school lacrosse coach at Calvert Hall, the big Catholic high school I went to. And last year they were #1 high school in the country, and he's coached like 13 of his 15 nephews and sons. And we try to keep the most important thing the most important thing. So for us, we all have a faith part to our lives. We're all desiring to grow in our relationship with God and honor God, and we all prioritize family. Like none of us want to sacrifice our family on the altar of a business. And we've just tried to really keep God at the center of what we're doing. And I think if you're each doing that, you can only be a knucklehead or a jerk so often. A lot of people say, Frank, what's it like working with your 3 brothers and now 2 sons and 3 nephews? And I'll often say 9 out of 10 days, it's great. Now, and if you're nice, I'll tell you about the 10th day. It's crazy. But, we have those 10th days, and we're committed. We have, mission, vision, values, action statements, and we try to live them out. And, which means we admit when we make mistakes, we apologize when we're wrong. Humility is probably one of the most important values in a family business is humility, in my opinion. And not, allowing people to get credit, even if you maybe did more, but respect. And we've worked a lot, Joel, with advisors. The Bible has a lot to say about the importance of wise advisors and counselors. Like you said, love the quote. When you're in a jar, you can't see or read the label. Okay. We all need help, corporately and individually. So for the last 20 years, since the 90s, me and my brothers meet every Tuesday. I think meeting together is important. Communication is important. One Tuesday a month from 8 to 2, we go off site with 2 leadership advisors. One's a spiritual leadership kind of advisor coach, and one's a strategic financial business coach. And we're dealing with tough issues. And hey, our mission says we're an organization committed to the pursuit of excellence in an effort to bring honor and glory to God. Our vision, our values say integrity, excellence, humility, respect, and generosity. Are we living these out? How are we doing, guys? It's got to start with us. So we've all subjected ourselves to accountability and feedback, which can be painful. But I think there's value in having advisors taking time, not to just work in the business, but to work on it from an above standpoint. And that time has been very, very valuable for us.
How have you ameliorated the situation between us and them? Family and bringing in highly competent people from the outside who might say, "Gosh, if a family member goes against me, there's pillow talk, there's Thanksgiving dinner talk.
Right.
I'm out." How do you deal with that?
Yeah. Hey, I'll show you on a separate note, we did bring an advisor who helped us establish boundaries so we don't talk about business at Thanksgiving dinner table. We did used to do that, but
Mm-hmm.
um, look at like a rising tide lifts all ships, and we've been blessed to attract amazing people. So, Joel, this year, 2026, is our 50th year in business,
That's
and I've
crazy.
been working hard on a book of kind of stories. But Kelly benefits, the first 50 years, and um, like one of the things I've wanted to do because we can't mention every single person. We have 47 people who've worked with us for 25 years or more.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. And
That's
that's a
huge.
testimony, right, to family and culture. We're very focused on culture. And culture is what you feel and
Mm-hmm.
experience in a business. We're very intentional. We don't want people to feel shame or disrespect. We work hard to invest in our people and our culture, which I think is the key to attracting and keeping great people. And we have incredible people in major leadership roles. I got to tell you, to be honest, I ask the question sometimes myself, like, wow, these people are as dedicated or more than we are to it. And in many cases, they've just been gifts and blessings from God, and hopefully the business has been a gift and blessing to them as well.
Mm-hmm. That says a lot about you and a lot about them.
Right.
Uh, you alluded a little bit to this, but was there ever a moment of serious disagreement between generations that could have actually fractured the business?
There's definitely been moments.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a bunch of moments, but like brothers, right? You fight.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the things we needed to learn. Like we'd go out and we had a basketball court in the back of one of our offices, and we're in our seventh headquarters now since the basement and the bedroom. We'd play basketball, and inevitably we were a lot rougher with each other than we would be with someone else. And like a fight would break out, maybe fists would go, push, shove. The other people playing around Kelly's are kind of freaking out, like, oh my gosh. But an hour later, the two brothers that were fighting are at lunch, eating a sandwich and drinking a soda like nothing happened. So we've had to learn that the way we treat each other can impact our people. And so when we first started the monthly Tuesday meetings with these strategic leadership coaches and advisors, we called it the respect initiative. Like we needed to model
Hmm.
respect to ourselves to better respect our people. And now, the last 10 years, it's called strengthening a brotherhood. So we call it our brotherhood meeting, one third Tuesday or fourth Tuesday of each month, brotherhood. And and that's where we take the time to take a step back. We talk about family and things like that. But yeah, we're working on those issues and trying to do it in a way that honors God.
And what governance structures did you put in place maybe many years ago to protect both the business and the family?
Well, we've got wise financial and estate planning advisors too. Like when you're talking about business succession planning or legacy, one thing would be the tax and the estate side and the governance side. The other would be kind of more the values, the leadership, the culture side. Both are really important. We've just worked, we've got a top level estate attorney and a guy named Steve Batoff, top level financial advisors, and we're kind of saying every year, like, is there anything we're not doing we should? What are best practice businesses doing? What are best practice privately owned family businesses doing? And you mentioned a few minutes ago, um, every week, every week, calls, emails, the private equity money's out there. We're a target. Almost all of our competitors have been purchased.
Hmm.
A lot of our broker partners, we've worked with other independent brokers have been acquired. Yeah, we feel led by God to build a legacy business. We have a unique mission. Our mission is to honor and glorify God. What does that mean in business? We explain that. We have a thing called an ambassador guide where we kind of articulate our vision, our mission, our values, our action statements. What you record, you remember, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so all of our people have this. And, you know, we realize, we feel that God's blessed it. I know I don't want to come across too preachy or faith oriented, Joel, but we just believe that God blessed us with the business, that it's his business. We're stewards of it. If you look in the Bible, there's lots of stories about how you use the talents God's given you. God likes a return on his investment, just like we do. So we want to be good stewards of the opportunity and investment he's given us to manage. And we realize that it's not just a bottom line we're managing to, it's influence in people's lives. Like our employee benefits to our own people are very unique. We think differently. It's not just health, life, disability, dental, vision insurance, and a 401k. There's a lot of other benefits we've put in place to try to bless and serve our people.
Now, a lot of people, comedians and others talk about Gen Z, next generation, in sometimes pejorative ways, but humorous ways. Have you become like a Gen Z whisperer? How are you preparing the next generation without a sense of entitlement or without entitling them, I'd say, in the process?
Yeah. Well, for the last dozen years, we've established a Gen 3 family council. They one representative from each brother's family, so the four of us is on the council, plus like two others. Now, when it started, it was like 10 of them. You had to be 16 and over. Now it's like 30 of them, with the spouses. They do a 3-day retreat, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday retreat. It's always about four things: faith, family, fun, business, or really family, faith, fun, business. At the 3-day retreat, it's focused very much on faith, family, fun, and business. We do a one-dayer on site in December, usually close to Christmas, where one of the brothers will come in and our consultant advisor will ask, one of us to speak on a subject matter. This year, they actually had me and my brothers on a panel discussion about culture and values. So we've been modeling for them. Also, we found that best practices need to work outside at least 3 to 5 years. My oldest son was out 10, my second son was out 7, et cetera. My nephew was out 4. To have real world experience. Me and my brothers, that wasn't what we had, but we were also coming into a little thing. What the next generation's coming into is much more complex with much more challenges in the marketplace. So that outside experience is extremely important. And, a lot of that starts in the house and the home too, like what's important, what's valued. And we didn't grow up with a golden or silver spoon. We've worked hard. Now we have made money, so our kids have grown up in a little different world, but they all seem to have an appropriate humility about them. And hopefully, as parents, we've modeled that to them.
Have you been able to extrapolate the basic benefits of them working in another business for 3, 5, 10 years? What do they bring back?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll go with my oldest son. He's been with us a year and a half, but he was a history business major at University of North Carolina. His girlfriend had an Achilles injury as a gymnast, had a 5th year, so he ended up getting a master's of accounting, which he wasn't even really interested in. I'm like, you cannot go wrong. Trust me. Get an account, learn as much accounting and finance. And then he helped coach lacrosse. Then he worked for Ernst & Young, EY in Philly for a number of years. Then they got married, moved to Atlanta as part of a church plant, and then he got a job with a firm called Tech CXO, where he was an outsourced CFO controller for about a dozen companies. And then he spent 5 years with Chick-fil-A on their drive-through efficiency team. I could tell you amazing stories. What better company to go work for than a privately owned faith-based business like that? And his boss had talked to me about that. What he's brought back is indescribably valuable. Our other son, North Carolina 2 business, 7 years with a firm, One Digital in Atlanta, great leaders there. Adam Bruckman's the CEO, a guy named Adam Pinnell with a senior level executive my son reports to, happens to be a man of faith who mentored him. So they were a private equity backed firm that was buying businesses all over the place. They would buy us in a minute. And he got experience. He came and brought that. So what Frankie brought from Chick-fil-A is incredible. Like even today, it's a Wednesday. Chick-fil-A does a weekly devotional Devo for their operators that come in. Different operators come in every week, and it's a 45-minute faith-based session, and it's structured in a really unique way. You would love it. And we now do it once a month at Kelly. Even ideas like that, plus the way they've reshaped the way our service team is made up. Like Frankie was on the drive-through efficiency team. So the instant offense. My nephew John spent 4 years, 3.5, 4 years with Principal in the 401k space. Now he's running our 401k advisory business, doing a phenomenal job. And they all have been blessed with leaders. Frankie, Will McFadden at Chick-fil-A, Stephen, Adam Pinnell at One Digital, Johnny, Mike, Looney, Michael Looney. Like these are the best of the best in the industry who've poured into our kids, and they've earned everything. They all started nowhere, and it's good. They climbed the ladder. Every one of them took a major pay cut to come into our business. By the way, and my son Steven at One Digital walked away from equity because they were private equity backed. They were recapitalizing. So these guys felt called, and they all took a step backwards to potentially take a step forwards. They also know that what we're about is bigger than a bottom line, and that's the key. Like to me, it's got to be bigger than just a bottom line business. Like to me, you mentioned my book earlier, Love and Go. It's really to me about the great commandment, love, and the great commission, go. Like loving God completely, loving others compassionately, loving yourself correctly, and going and sharing God's love and truth in word and deed wherever we are. You're a coach, you're a teacher, like you're an innovative thinker, you're a visionary thinker, Joel. You create curriculums, but even like we don't just sell benefits or group insurance to employers or payroll. We're providing solutions to help businesses be better, to help make a better world. And we're doing it hopefully in a way that, reflects God's love and grace in our lives too.
I have one more question. It's more business related, and then I want to talk about your book about lacrosse too.
Okay, great.
You've already talked about Love and Go,
Yep.
and a little bit, but maybe we can touch on that a little bit too. But what was your biggest, I would say, leadership failure, and what has that taught you about stewardship?
Well, we all make mistakes, right? But in my 40 years, I've tried to be faithful. If there was one word I'd use is faithful. I want to be full of faith, but faithful. Yeah, I think my biggest leadership issues come around trying to control things, and especially when I'm feeling rushed or up against the clock or pressured, is in evaluating myself, having 360s. I don't ever want to have people experience shame. Like shame's an issue. We could talk a whole segment on shame. One of my leaders, a woman, key senior leader, like, I was studying. I'm like, do you feel shame from when you're with me? And she goes, yes. I'm like, really? Tell me. She told me, and then I spent a year studying it.
Wow.
And I've gone back and I said, do you still feel shame from me? No, I don't. Like, we can bring our baggage to the table and not even know it, like you said. And like, I don't want to lead with fear or that, and some of it is subconscious and it's harder to discern. But how do you make people feel as a leader? That's a good question. I don't want people to feel intimidated or shamed in any way through my leadership. I want them to feel blessed, encouraged, and empowered, right? So
Yeah.
that's where I've struggled probably the most to grow as a leader.
Yeah, people forget so much, but they'll never forget how they felt in our
Right.
presence.
100%.
And that
Yep.
is such an important component. Thank you so much for being vulnerable about that. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, you wrote a book about lacrosse
Right.
and your family and your faith and your story, influence in the creator's game. Now we're going to put the image of that
Okay.
book, also Love and Go. We're going to put that image up too. But tell us a little bit about lacrosse and the kind of the impact that that's had on you, not just physically in playing the game, but enough to write a book about it.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, I ended up at the Calvert Hall. The lacrosse coach convinced me and a couple football players to play lacrosse, Providential. I ended up at Cornell University playing for a Hall of Fame coach, Richie Moran. I ended up with injuries because I was a knucklehead and the coach was tough on me, and kind of had a spiritual awakening my sophomore year in the middle of lacrosse practice, of all places, on Shokoff Field, which is a Native American country. So, I as a junior, I went to my first ever Bible study. I didn't know anything, but it had a huge impact. I graduated. I thought lacrosse was over. But I went back to my high school, started a Fellowship of Christian Athletes huddle, ran into my old lacrosse coach. He asked me to coach. Next thing you know, I'm coaching. Then they started a pro indoor league. Now I'm playing pro indoor. So I thought lacrosse was over. I'm in Japan serving. I get called back to Baltimore in these 5 areas: business, schools, lacrosse, friends. Next thing you know, I played 20 plus years of lacrosse after college. professionally and otherwise. But
That's
this
incredible.
book, yeah, and so this book, I felt led to write because I got involved with this ministry called Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA, and the one-word definition of FCA is influence. And you were a chaplain, Joel, for the Washington Bullets and Wizards, and you know the influence of the good news and the gospel. And so this book's titled Influence and the Creator's Game. And the Creator's Game is what the Native Americans called lacrosse, okay? And it goes back to the 1100s. There, that the natives, and it started with the Iroquois or the Haudenosaunee, and there were 6 nations of the Iroquois. To the east, to the east gate guarding to the Atlantic were the Mohawk. To the west was the Seneca. To the south, the Tuscarora. That was in Pennsylvania. The Seneca to the Mississippi, the Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, up into what's southern Canada today. So I went to Cornell. It's literally situated on Lake Cayuga, and then we'd play Hobart on Lake Seneca, and Oneida and Onondaga. And there's these reservations, but it was in the 1600s that French Jesuit missionaries first saw the natives playing the game, and it was different then. It was a lot of people playing, and they were fascinated, and they thought the sticks, they were wooden and curved, looked like a Catholic bishop's cross. So it was these missionaries that called it lacrosse or the cross. And my book is basically how I came to know the Creator through the Creator's game, lacrosse. Now, what's interesting is all 6 nations of the Haudenosaunee had a different name because they spoke a different tongue. They all used they had a different language. But the name that they used in their language for the game always translated meant the Creator's game. And when the natives played, they played to please the Creator. They played it as like a game to prepare young warriors for war. They played it as a medicine game. The stick was wood, the pocket was leather. It was very tied into creation. Like even holding the wooden stick was like you were connected to God and his creation when you played. Everything about the game was tied back to the Creator. And it's crazy. So my one son, Stephen, played at Carolina, won a national championship, played 7 years professionally, 5 in the Premier Lacrosse League. 2 of the years he played with a guy named Lyle Thompson, one of the greatest players ever, native, grew up on Onondaga Nation, reservation, played at Albany. But he was a freelance player. Like he did not play for the scoreboard. He played to please the Creator. So he would do crazy things at the wrong time. It's like in a basketball game, you're up two with 5 seconds left. You're not going to shoot or, do something crazy. And he would do it behind the back shot because he was playing to please the Creator. And he was so gifted, and he is gifted, and he's special. And so we love the game. And it's the first game that was played, a team game played on the soil of what we call the United States today, was played by the natives. So I love the history of the game. And this book, a friend of mine, Bill Tamulonis, interviewed 70 people, locally, regionally, nationally, around the world, Uganda, Kenya, Ukraine, that all have come to faith in some way or another through the Creator's game. So Influencing the Creator's Game is my story and stories of family, faith, and lacrosse. And I felt compelled to write it, and I'm glad I did.
Wow. Got 1 minute left.
Okay.
How do you define success differently than when you were 35?
Success to me today is I don't want to be trite, but is aligning my life with God, what I believe is God's way and will. And I just want to honor God. And when you give, whatever you give, your time, your talent, your treasure, your testimony, truth, whatever you give to him comes back. And I think true success comes from God's blessing and walking in his way and his will, which I desire to do. Not perfectly, but that's my desire.
Frank, thank you so much. This has been just an enriching time for me. I've learned a lot about you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy schedule to be with us.
Thanks, Joel. Thank you for being you, Joel. Thank you.
You have just experienced another episode of the Mischief Maker broadcast. Hit the subscribe button. Connect at chiefmischiefmaker.com. Thanks for coming along for the ride. And hopefully, you are now a bit closer to becoming a mischief maker in your part of the world.